Hey folks, welcome you all to a new video. This is CA Ganesh Bharadwaj. So how was today's costing exam? Well, when I asked this question on poll, about 70% of the students said the question paper was decent enough to score at least 50 marks, while on one side, a very small set of students said it was very difficult, and again, a very small set of students said it was very easy. So on an average, I would take it as the paper was decent enough to score at least a 50 plus. Now, the reason I'm making this video right now is because of two things. One, I want to make it very clear right now that I'm not going to discuss any answers because the war is not yet over. You have another paper in this group, right? And for those who are writing both the groups, you are left with 5 more papers. So I'm not going to discuss any solution right now. You can be very clear about it, because if you got it wrong, then you will feel bogged down by it. So I'm not going to discuss any solution for any of the questions. I'm just going to give an overview of this paper. And number two, if you felt the paper was lengthy, remember, you are not alone. Yes, the paper was a bit lengthy. That was the common feedback that I got from many students. So if you have written for about 75 to 80 marks, if you have written just for 75 to 80 marks, that is good enough. That is good enough. This was based on the feedback that I got from multiple students. Some students rang me up, some students sent me a message, and all of these things. And of course, we are going to match all these questions with whatever that I had given you in the strategy and how well that strategy worked out, right? So this is what we're going to see in this video, relatively a smaller video. And please remember, whatever it is, you have to move forward to the next exam. If you felt that the exam was very easy, don't take it to your head. And if you feel that the exam was very difficult, don't take it to your heart. Both ways. You should know how to handle success as well as failure. So don't get too excited if you felt the paper was easy. Don't feel too bad if you felt the paper was very tough and all. Just have a level-headed approach. Whatever was done is done and dusted. That's about it. Just move to the next paper, and that is the only way to success. Clear with this, guys? So so this is, I've just summarized this entire question paper, right? So in question number 1, the 4 5-mark questions. So the first question came from material costs, wherein they are tested on EOQ and stock level. So this was at par with our prediction, wherein I told you generally in question number 1, if they test material cost, they generally test this area. And similarly in labor cost, they are tested for Halsey and Rowan. This was a reverse working question, a fairly a simple question one. Then they had also tested for joint and byproducts and contract costing. So in question number 1, I was predicting marginal costing will come in, but to our surprise, marginal costing didn't come. And one more thing, I was expecting contract costing to come as a 10-mark question. As I was sharing with you guys, this is the last attempt where contract costing is going to be tested, but I told you contract costing will be tested for sure. So they didn't test it as a 10-mark question, but rather they tested it as a 5-mark in the compulsory part, because now it makes sense. Since they tested it in the 5-mark in the compulsory section, so students can't miss this. They can't leave this chapter in choice, right? Then in question number 2, one full 10-mark question came with based on simple cost sheet. Just the formats were tested, no stock valuation and all directly. This was at par with our product prediction. And one budgeting question came in. So I was expecting that budgeting might or might not come. That too, if it comes, might be for 10 marks. So this was a surprise element in this particular attempt, because budgeting just comes and goes. For 3 consecutive attempts, 10 marks it was tested, and suddenly for 2 attempts they didn't test much. So this one came as a surprise even for me. And then overheads, that is primary distribution, secondary distribution, absorption, one full 10-mark question came in. And service costing, I told you guys that it might come as a 5-mark question in question number 1. Instead, they tested it for 10 full marks in this particular attempt. And this was a very new sum as well. But the concepts were not different, but this was fairly a new sum. Clear? So this was about a short-term accommodation. That is the hotel services sector. Now, the best part here is ABC, the activity-based costing was again tested. Wherein this question was about traditional costing versus ABC. Once again, a 10-mark question came from this area. I told you guys that overheads plus ABC put together can be tested somewhere around 10 marks. At times, it even got tested for 20 marks, and this attempt, it got tested for 20 marks. So those who followed the defense plus attack strategy, these 2 chapters put together would have fetched you 20 marks directly as it is, right? Then marginal costing, they are tested shutdown point, but this time marginal costing got tested for 5 marks only. I was generally expecting marginal costing for about 10 to 15, but yes, it definitely got tested. but this time it was only for about 5 marks. And process costing was a fairly easy sum. They just tested 2 process accounts. They had to prepare, you had to prepare, and there were no opening and closing WAP and all. So all this equivalent units, FIFO weighted average, nothing was there. It's a direct question. That's why they tested it for 5 marks. And as expected, one question from standard costing for 10 full marks. And as a surprise element, as a pleasant surprise, that's what I would call it, cost sheet was once again tested for a 6-mark question in 5B. So cost sheet came as a 10-mark as well as for a 6-mark. So if you had followed the defense strategy that I told you, the first chapter cost sheet, now this attempt they tested it for 16 marks full. 16 marks full it came. And this question was also predicted. Cost accounting systems, I told you, definitely every attempt, 5 marks they are testing. And this 5 marks, it can either come in journals or it can come in reconciliation. To the extent of concept itself, we predicted this. And of course, it came in for 4 marks instead of 5 marks, right? So this is what it is. And finally, there were a few, theory part. And theory part, I feel, was relatively easier because the first part 6A, the first question was about some definitions from the basic concepts. Then part B was about, the second question in theory was about true or false. And the third one was about employee productivity. So ways to improve productivity and what do you mean by employee productivity? Some practical theory. So you can even write in your own words. And the fourth question was from various chapters, a few chapters mixed together. So this was about a definition. And the sixth one came in from ABC once again. This time they had asked for cost drivers for the given cost. This is a practical theory question, no definition. So if you look at it, ABC came for 10 marks here as the practical element and once again for 5 marks in the theory area, right? So this was how your entire paper was looking like. Or to put it in our defense plus attack strategy that I had told you, cost sheet came in for 16 marks in the practical side itself, one 10 marks and one 6 mark, right? That 6 mark question was about calculating the cost of sales and profit. Of course, they had also given that out of the entire production, some 10% was defective and all, you had to reverse work and you need to calculate. But that was fairly a simple question. So that was also coming in cost sheet only, right? So cost sheet, single chapter, 16 marks. Marginal costing, I expected 10, but it came 5. And I was also expecting that RTP question to be tested. But this time they didn't test that RTP question. I do agree. Fine. Maybe in the next attempt they might test it. But that was a very good question. I was expecting that. If not in this attempt, maybe they might test it in the next attempt. So that one came as a surprise for me as well. And the most important surprise for me is generally marginal costing gets tested for 10 to 15 marks. But this time it just got tested for 5 marks. So that one came as a surprise. But to compensate that, cost sheet they had tested for 16 instead of 10. So this exceeded our prediction, right? And standard costing as expected, 10 marks. And this is the Diwali bonanza, I can say, the Diwali offer that they had given. Overheads and ABC put together was tested for a whopping 20 marks in the practical area and 5 marks in the theory segment. So the defense, I conservatively told, if you cover these 5 chapters, you will at least get 40 marks. But to a pleasant surprise, the defense chapters that I told you was tested for 51 marks in the practical segment alone and 5 marks in the theory segment alone. That to this entire 51 marks, it came from question number 2 to question number 5. That is, in this practical questions, in this 4 questions itself, all these questions came in, right? Clear with this? And of course, question number 2 to question number 5. So that's going to be 4 questions, 4 into 20 marks, 80. Out of this 80 questions, 51 questions came from the defense, the first 5 chapters itself. So I was very happy with respect to the defense part. As against 40 marks, it has exceeded you could have got half through the paper, that is more than 50 marks. Plus even a practical theory was tested for ABC. This time overage and ABC put together was tested for 25 marks, including the theory segment. So that was like, something else. That was like something else. But this is also the reason why students felt that the paper was lengthy, because overheads and ABC, if you know the answer, yes, it is easy, no doubt. But even if you know the answer, the problem is it is time consuming. It is time consuming in the exam to write it fully and finish the paper. This is where if you had followed the strategy at about 4:15, you might have realized that the paper was difficult. So I asked you to go attempt the theory. So if you had attempted the theory, then you could have easily covered about 80-85 marks. At least for sure, you could have definitely attempted for 80 to 85 marks, right? Attempting for 80-85 marks in this paper is good enough. So don't worry about it. Sir, some students told me, sir, I had written only for 70 or 75. It's okay, right? It's okay. even if you score about 80% of whatever you have written, then you are halfway through, or you are even guaranteed of an exemption. So don't worry about it. Please don't carry this forward to the next paper. That's all I am saying. Clear with this? Now, these 5 chapters that we saw, the overage and ABC are 2 chapters here. So 3 plus 2, 5 chapters put together contributed to 51 plus 5, about 56 marks in total. And moving to the attack part, this is where the surprise element came in. Contract costing, as against our prediction of 10 marks, it got tested only for 5 marks. Process costing, again, instead of 10, it got tested for 5. Cost accounting test system, at par with our prediction that journal entries they had asked, instead of 5 marks, they had tested for 4 marks. Now, material cost, I told you, it generally comes in the theory segment. So it generally comes in question number 1, as well as it generally gets tested in theory. As expected, 1 5 mark in question number 1, 1 5 mark in your theory segment. And service costing, I had expected 5 marks, but it exceeded our expectation. It came for 10 marks. So these are broadly the chapters that I was talking about in terms of your strategy. And in this attack, about you get 29 marks in the practical segment and 5 marks in the theory segment. So overall, the chapters that I had predicted, that I had given you in the strategy, so 51 plus 29, that gives you 80 marks came from the chapters that I had predicted, so that I had given you in the strategy in the practical segment. And out of the theory segment, about 10 marks came in. That is 1 question from material cost and 1 question from your overheads ABC. That was a chapter that was actually a practical theory. There was a practical theory, so you need not read your theory separately for this. So this is what we got overall. So out of the 125 marks of the exam paper, 80 plus 10, about 90 marks came from these 9 to 10 chapters that we had predicted. And the best part was the defense, wherein these 5 chapters contributed to about 51 plus 5 marks, the entire question paper. So this is what I was really happy about. And guys, of course, students are feeling that this question paper was a bit lengthy. I do agree with you on that. So please don't think that you are alone. Please don't ever think that you are alone. If you have written only for 70 marks, if you have written only for 75 marks, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. If the question paper is lengthy, then it is lengthy for the entire India. It is lengthy for all the students in India. So please don't think that you are alone on this. Are you clear with this? Fine. And then please don't carry this forward. Don't carry forward your emotions to the next paper. You have a tax paper to tackle. Right now, if you're writing one group, you have 1 more paper left. If you're writing both the groups, you are left with 5 more papers. So right now, you need to have that energy level. Don't even worry about whatever has gone. Past is past. Whatever you have written cannot be changed. Whether you have written it well or you have not written it well, this is just your opinion. This is just your opinion. On the date of result only, you will know where you stand. Are you clear with this? And moreover, don't worry about the date of result right now. You have done your part. Just focus on the controllables right now. This second, at most, what can you do? You can prepare only for the next paper. There is no point in thinking about what has happened in the past paper and all. Whether you have done it right or whether you have done it wrong, you've done it well or you've done it bad, it really doesn't matter. Right now, just move forward in life and look forward to the next paper. Are you clear with this? So overall, this paper, how was it? In terms of difficulty level, I wouldn't say this paper was difficult. In terms of lengthiness, yes, this paper was a bit lengthy. Completing the entire paper in a span of 3 hours could have been a challenge for many students. So this is the common feedback that I got from many students, and I feel this is how it was. And the best part, again, I'm telling you, was that from the defense 5 chapters, the predominant portion came in, and I'm super happy with respect to that. Of course, certain things were a surprise element. I was expecting a 10-mark question from marginal costing, that too from this RTP sum, that didn't come. And this budgeting, I was expecting only for 5 marks. It might come, that too. So I didn't even tell you in that strategy video. It came in for 10 marks. So there were some surprise elements, but overall, out of the paper, it came in as we expected. So that is the final verdict about this particular exam paper, right? So no matter what, again, I told you, work hard in silence. Let your success make all the noise. So how much ever well you have done or how much ever bad you think you have done, it is just your opinion, and your opinion really doesn't mean that that is how your future or that is how your result is going to reflect. Are you clear with this? Have this mindset, stay calm, take some rest, and just move forward with the next exam paper. That is the best thing you can do at this point of time. Are you clear with this, guys? So on that note, I'm signing off in this video. All the very best to you guys. So that's it from my side for today, guys. I will see you all in the next one. Thank you all so much, and bye-bye.